Plenty of attention has been on Russia during this World Cup, with a whole host of bizarre stories coming to the fore. But what impact is the tournament having on Russia's economy, and will it have a lasting effect moving forward? To answer all of these questions and more, we speak to Jose Ricaurte Jaen. Jose, great to talk to you as always. The World Cup is in full swing in Russia, and according to US ratings agency Moody's, the competition will have little lasting impact on the Russian economy. But what about an immediate impact? Have you spotted anything?
Thank you for the invitation, Jack. Absolutely. Look, there's so much to discuss in this concept about if it's not a long-lasting benefit for Russia. But there's one thing I guarantee you. People will now know where is St. Petersburg. We cannot deny that anymore. And it's just a interesting idea. One of the best hostels, and we're going to just shift the idea about if it's discussing about what Moody's think of Russia, is that the best hostel right now in the world is in St. Petersburg. It's Soul Kitchen. It's a very young, vibrant business catering to backpackers, travelers. Now, I bet you one thing, they might be running at full capacity right now. But what is very crucial here to understand is there are several sectors when you have these events. Think about the World Cup, but also the Olympics. Like if you try to match this as what happened in Brazil. Now, you have to keep in mind, this is for the audience, right? Certain events, they have a purpose. Sometimes, like you have the very case of Barcelona, the Olympics of 1992. It was a massive change. It was a drastic change in the future of Barcelona. Now, we cannot take one case, and remember, past performance does not indicate future performance. Very important. So what is happening might be different of what you think as if you try to use a benchmark for the past. So we cannot use this example from Barcelona or say something like the Olympics in Brazil. Now, the World Cup as it is a very short event. And we have to understand the dynamics are different. You have a little bit of construction, and that's what Moody's focuses on, the constructions, telecom, tourism impact. There is an impact. Now, how things will change in the future, what I do believe and I'm spotting is, first, we have this massive issue with sanctions from the US that really hit hard the ruble. I do expect to, right now I'm short the US dollars against the ruble. I'm looking all the way back to, probably trade back to 59 in the next 2 months. And there's a lot of calm in the waters are very calm. And when it comes to Moody's, what I really grasp is the understanding that the dynamics of the economics, the country itself, it won't change. There's more work to do there. But one thing for sure, Russia is opening its doors to the world via the World Cup. And of course, there's an impact. It'll probably be something around, they said 0.2% extra on the GDP. This is viable. It's something. And short-lived or not, Russia won't be the same. I bet you that tourism will increase at a higher pace from this point. And I'm just getting information from the South China Morning Post. More than 100,000 Chinese visited the World Cup. And they will go back home. They will talk. And I bet you one thing, Russia will be one of the coolest places to visit from now on.
Yeah, really interesting point, Jose. Already the feedback coming back from those who have visited the World Cup in Russia is very positive. So this knock-on effect through future tourism could be huge for the country. Anyway, moving on to the second question. A lot was made of Russia's opening group game at the World Cup, and it wasn't all about football. The other big talking point during their game with Saudi Arabia was oil. How have the oil markets been performing over the last few weeks?
Well, there's a couple of things on the table. You have to see first, you have big banks like Goldman Sachs, Barclays upgrading their forecasts. Probably Goldman Sachs are raising on a $100 per barrel. You want to look into a few things before we jumped into the oil market's performances during this week. How oil is doing. I want to take a look at something very crucial. And I just want to put sort of apples to apples in the sense of discussing a few ideas down the road that I know you wanted to put on the table. Now, as usual, this is the national debt clocks. On top, first one, you see Russia. It's a 12-figure debt, okay? Now, I want you to compare that to Italy to see the potential, because I want just to put some perspective now on the table. And the Italy, in this case, this is in dollars. This is in dollars, by the way. We're looking at 14 figures, okay? Now, crucial thing about the future of the Russian economy, something to consider, is this right here. I'm gonna just do the same with Italy, and here you have a view, and we pretty much will have a better understanding of this. Now, population-wise, Russia has 146 million versus 60 million in Italy. But I want you to focus on this. Take a look at this. GDP, debt as percentage of GDP, only 20% for Russia. And for Italy, 138. Let's just call it 140. Just that's what it is, 140. Maybe even more. It could be right now 150. It's just how you play with the numbers. Now, this tells you where's the potential. The society, the Russian economy has been through all these sanctions and different battles. We cannot deny that it's the environment to do business in Russia it's harsh. It's a difficult environment, and still somehow they're finding success. That tells you that if they were to increase their debt percentage of debt versus GDP, they can grow a lot more, and they have double size of the population versus Italy. That tells you how big is and relevant is the future of Russia when it comes to see which economy to bet in the next 10 to 20 years. Now, as usual, how's oil? Now, that was a very interesting. Like, we have this big dip. I'm just going to go to the charts right now. We have this big dip here all the way to 63.25. Actually took me out. I had my stop losses at 64. But we haven't increased that more than 10% in 1 week, Jack. This is absolutely brilliant. And like I said, we're looking right now, forecasts are looking to target $100 per barrel. That's not shop change. Of course, Saudi Arabia may want this to be the price, as there is an important IPO. We won't discuss it right now, but there is an IPO on the table. There's a lot of discussions, and think about it. What could be better for a lot of these oil companies if you're selling $100 when you actually are preferable, who knows, maybe at 30. So there are two games to play here. Number one, if it goes $100 per barrel, more and more of these oil companies will have huge margins. But if it drops all the way back to 40, we cannot discount this from the table. Well, they're still gonna make money. So what happened is just a ride. We're just playing a boom and all these booms in commodities. And if the dollar were to retreat a little bit, it can actually see very soon the price of oil at $100. It's right there.
Finally, Jose, moving forward, with Russian economic growth set to slow in 2019 due to a planned tax hike, what is your overall assessment of the state of the Russian economy?
Well, for me, the Russian economy is just one of those massive giants. I bet that in the next 20 to 40 years, China and Russia will be in a much better position. I'm also counting with India coming on top as well. They're big markets. I shared with the audience something to consider. Never discounts the Russians, as the Chinese were discounted for so many years. People were saying, well, at some point, it's a little bit different, but just to give you an idea, they used to say made in China. At some point, they also said made in Taiwan. And that's, again, topics to discuss at different points in another interview. But what I want to say is, made in China is not what it used to be. It's changing. So we have to pay attention. Russia is the same example. Right now, conditions might be, as I mentioned, harsh. It's difficult to do business. But this is just the beginning of a small shift. The butterfly effect. That's what is this World Cup for Russia. Now, moving into 2019, there's this new VAT coming, value added tax. I don't see that as a problem. I see that as a huge, it's an important step, Jack. Now, I want the audience to think. So, if your economy is doing all right and you add taxes, you need to understand where those taxes are going. That's the real value, okay? So if we manage that, if we really reinvest those taxes collected properly, we're savvy about that, I think the Russian economy is doing just perfect. Now, the Russian Central Bank are talking about target inflation 4%. We just have apparently the Eurozone inflation hitting 2%. Inflation is on the air. Like love is in the air, inflation is as well. So, give and take. As I mentioned, I'm short the ruble. I'm sharing the chart here as a spike coming into the World Cup. A little bit of this explosion here because of the sanctions discussion with the U.S. Same old, nothing changed. But as we always have to pay attention, it's true. The U.S. economy is doing just fine. And I expect things to slow down during the summer. A lot of traders are gonna take their risk out of the table before they go into summer mode. And I expect this ruble all the way back to what could be seen as a fair value between the 58, 59, 20 against the US dollar. That's my take. But for now, don't discount the Russians and make sure to allocate proper bets into what I believe is one of the most vibrant and biggest markets right now to play in, the Russian economy.
Amazing stuff from Jose. Let's see what the next big story from the competition will be, and if any other key nations meet in football, maybe more deals will get made in the stands. Who knows? What do you think the impact of the World Cup on Russia will be? Does it make you want to visit Russia? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you for watching. If you would like to see more content like this, as well as everything else affecting the markets, head on over to dukascopy.tv, unless you're already here, in which case, keep it up.